Today we are reviewing the brand new first EV welcomed into the Honda lineup, the 2024 Honda Prologue Elite Edition. Now this EV is a little bit controversial because it's actually a collaboration with the GM brand. So GM is taking care of the motors, the battery, the button styling, and much more. Now, can this Honda Prologue actually stack up next to the Kia EV6 and the Tesla Model Y? Let's find out. Before we get into everything, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Honda Superstore of Lisle for giving us the opportunity to take this 2024 Prologue out. If you're in need of a Honda, make sure you go to hondaoflisle.com to see what they have in inventory to help you out. Now, coming back to the front of the Honda Prologue, you will notice it's a pretty typical Honda front end. You do have the Honda badging here. You've got daytime running lights at the top of both of your headlights here and LED beam headlights. It does look, it's stylized like a Honda. I think it looks like a Honda, but it also doesn't scream EV, other than the fact you don't have a grille. Moving along to the side of the Prologue, you do have the biggest wheels ever offered on a Honda vehicle stock. You've got 21-inch wheels, real nice and beefy, and especially on this Elite trim, that's where the size really steps up and you get a beefier tire. And then, of course, that is covered in a black fender flare. You know, it gives a little bit of contrast, a little bit of stylization. Overall, it looks pretty good. I still like that it doesn't scream EV. Moving on beyond that, you do, of course, have your side view mirrors. They are equipped with driver safety features, so you have a camera at the bottom of them. They also defrost, and they have driver lane departure warnings and safety assistance. Now, these are just black from the factory. They are not painted, so not too much added style there, but they look good nonetheless. They fit it well. What I really like is, you know, I've grown to just like the classic normal handles, and this EV has that, so that's a big win in my book. Also, because this is the Elite trim, you do have this black skirting here. You know, it gives it a little more style, and overall it looks good. Another thing that I love to see is that we also have roof rails here, because this is a mid-size SUV after all. Got to be able to put a box up there. Now, moving around to the exterior of this Prologue, first off, I love the giant silver Honda, nice and spread out across the back. You'll notice that the rear end kind of mimics the front end. You've got your tail lights here and then your turn signals, of course, but like it looks very similar to the front end, very well in my opinion. And then you've kind of got like this fake skid plate down here that is plastic, so don't take this off-roading. Now let's move into the inside and see if the GM influences really ruins the Prologue or not. Got some nice beefy, hefty doors. I like the contrast right off the bat. You've got the white with the shiny black here and there, and then injective mold plastic. All right, moving on to the door panel itself. On this edition, you do get 2 memory seat options, and then of course your lock and unlock button, your side view mirror controls, and 1-touch window operation only for the front, so the back does not have it. Also on this Prologue, you do have foldable side view mirrors, so if that's something you like for those tight parking spaces, because this is actually a bit wider than the CR-V and a little bit longer. So you're getting a bigger vehicle, so that button there will help you fit in to those tighter spaces. And below your armrest here, you do have your trunk button. To the left of the steering wheel, got really basic functions here. You've got your parking brake, your sport mode, your button to help you stay in your lane, bro, auto hold for your stopping, and of course your digital gauge cluster brightness. And then below here, you actually don't have a frunk in this Prologue, so this is for your front motors. Now that we're on the inside of the Prologue and we're in the AC, I will say, you know, one thing I love about EVs is that the AC cools up really, really fast, because it is a blistering 100 degrees outside today and we are sweaty. But, you know, we need some more light in here, so this is actually equipped with a panoramic sunroof. So that's absolutely awesome. I love that. You know, I'm always a big fan of the big windows, but this one's even better than that, because also this panoramic sunroof also opens, which is great. Big win over BMW, because BMWs almost always have these panoramic sunroofs, but they never open. So why can't they all do this? I love it. All right, now like I mentioned, the Prologue is a collaboration with GM. So a lot of the interior here you'll notice is actually pulled from GM. Like the volume knob, your start button, even the key is styled after a GM. But the steering wheel itself, it is set up a little bit differently than what we're used to here. So on the left side here, you have your driver's assistant functions and your cruise control. Whereas on the right-hand side, you have your multimedia functions and your heated steering wheel button. Now, you might be asking me, where's the volume button? Well, the volume button's actually on the right-hand side behind the steering wheel, which is strange. But on the left-hand side, you do have your regenerative braking paddle, so you can make that firmer or softer if you wish. And you know, some other things get interesting behind the steering wheel as well, because these stalks are set up much differently than normal. So on the right side, you have your drive mode selector. Okay, that's fine, but where's your windshield controls? Well, they're all combined over here on the left with your turn signal. So you've got two little dials here that function for your front and rear windshield, and then you've also got your turn signal if you go up and down. I thought that was a little unique, a little new, a little interesting. Let me know what you think. Do you like that? Would that get confusing? Are you gonna go to turn on your windshield wipers and you're gonna slam it into park? Now, moving on beyond the steering wheel, you do have an 11-inch digital gauge cluster, and actually the screen is super crisp. It's absolutely beautiful, looks fantastic, and if that's not enough for you, because this is the Elite Edition, we also have a heads-up display. Another big win for Honda here is the fact that I can see it with my polarized glasses on. You can never see those with your polarized glasses on, so that's a win there too. To the right of that, we have an 11.3-inch infotainment center, and this thing is quite snappy. It's responsive, but you know, I'm not entirely happy with everything about it, because you'll notice that we didn't see any headlight controls. There was nowhere for us to change our lights. Well, that's because you have to do it all in there, which I'm not a fan of that at all. But hey, at least we do have the physical AC dials. Now, this does have auto high beams, auto lights, and everything like that. So the likelihood that you're actually going in here very often to mess with your lights isn't very likely anyways. But you also do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So yeah, and the software itself on here is also running Google Maps. So you've also got that. Like, basically, you don't even need to connect your phone, I guess. Now, another thing that is a little bit atypical that I wasn't expecting is typically you would think that your hazard button would be below the infotainment screen here, right between these two vents, but it's not. Always make sure you know where that is, and it's actually up here above your rear view mirror. And that's also where you'll find your SOS button, your OnStar button, your quiet mode, and then your panoramic sunroof controls, whether it be to open the roof or just close the shade. Now, the shade does have an auto reverse feature, so if something stops it, it'll go ahead and reverse it. But you know, I just want to take a moment, because Honda's actually getting with the times here, and they did the stylization of the dash and the placement of buttons in here, right? And I will give them credit. This actually looks really nice, really clean. I will complain a little bit that, you know, this is all plastic. It should be wrapped in leather. This is a $60,000 vehicle, one of their top of the line vehicles. You know, I would just like to see a little bit more luxury, I guess. But nonetheless, the dash looks absolutely great. You've got the shiny black here with the white plastic, and then, I don't know, a little bit of stylization there with the textured, and then these flat vents. One thing that they didn't carry over from GM is the circular vents, which I think the flat ones look much better anyways, but I will say you get a lot better air control with the circular ones. But below the infotainment screen, you do have dual zone climate control, as well as heated and ventilated seats for both your front passengers, and then yeah, all your zone controls. You've got a button to turn on the AC, and you've got a button to turn on the heat. Now, below the infotainment center and your air controls, you do have two Type-C USB ports, a 12-volt outlet in your cigarette lighter jack style, a flat area that you would expect it to be a wireless charging pad. However, it's not, because your wireless charger is right here. So your phone goes in vertically just like that, and it'll charge. Below that, you do have a large storage cubby, very difficult to use. As long as you don't need it while you're driving, it's probably a good space to put it. But then you've got this nice padded armrest here wrapped in the white leather with the black stitching contrast. It looks good, and a very deep center console. Now, the seats themselves on the 2024 Prologue, I actually like them a lot. They're really comfortable. They've got ventilation, especially on this 100-degree day. Definitely need it. But they look absolutely fantastic. And you have 10-way power seat control functions on your driver's seat. You know, that's great. You've even got the lumbar in there to help you get a little more comfortable. But, you know, I love the white stitching mixed in with the blue stitching, the gray, the white. And then one thing that Uncle Steve likes is these one-touch operation headrests. So that's great. Now in the rear here, where your family's gonna be spending all of their time, so let's make sure it's good and comfortable for them. You've got the same stylization on the door panel here as you do have in the front. So it looks great, just like it did there. You've got 2 kangaroo pouches on the back of both seats, so that's great. Now this is in my typical driving position, and I'm about 5'9" or so. I can't touch Steve's 7'8", but the seating position is great. I've got tons of knee room here, and somewhat adequate headspace. I think that Steve might hit his head, but I do not, so I win. You've got an air vent for each passenger back here, a little cubby hole, and then 2 Type-C USB ports, and a 110 volt outlet, which is fantastic. You know how many EVs we've driven that didn't have that? It's absolutely absurd. You've got all this battery. Why can't you plug anything in? And then between me and my toddler passenger here, we do have a cup holder armrest. All right, now let's move on to the rear of the Prologue. This does have an electronic liftgate, so 1-button operation, absolutely great. Now you will notice that although this does appear to have ample storage space and it's longer and wider than a lot of its competitors, it actually only has about 25 cubic feet of space in this current setup, and it's less than the CR-V, the Passport, but nonetheless it is pretty ample. And beneath the floorboard here you have a very large cubby and a little bit of space here that you can put things, so that's great. You've got a little tie-down strap, you know, so you can get some more storage out of it. And it is a 60-40 split, but it has a little bit of an incline when you put the seats all the way down, like you can see in the video now. But on the left side here you do have another outlet in your cigarette jack style, and then 2 lights. Nothing too crazy going on back here, but if storage is something you need, you do get up to 10 cubic feet more on some of the competitor vehicles, such as the CR-V, the Passport, and what have you. All right, so you already know that because this does have an electronic liftgate, we're gonna go ahead and see if it'll chop off your finger. So let's see how it fares in the eggplant test. Will this hurt you or your child? Ooh, maybe. A little bit. Look at both sides there. You've got a good like 1/4-inch divot on both sides. That might hurt a little bit. Fail, Honda. You failed. All right, now we're behind the wheel of this 2024 Prologue, and right off the bat, I'm gonna tell you, it is quite comfortable. You know, it feels good. It feels smooth. It's responsive. You know, it's pretty bland, kind of boring, but other than that, like, it does exactly what it's supposed to do, which is supposed to be an efficient, affordable EV, and it does that very well. You know, when you're thinking about Honda, you think about the Type R, you think about the SI and everything like that. This isn't supposed to be one of those, so it's not as fast or as sporty as you might like an EV to be, or as you're used to be if you're coming from a Tesla or anything like that, but I think it does its job very well. The visibility is fantastic because you've got windows, giant windows everywhere here. The steering is good and responsive. But let's talk about the battery for a second, because this is a GM battery, you know, and this is Honda's first full EV. So this is sporting an 85 kilowatt hour battery. It takes about 10 minutes to get a 60 mile an hour charge out of it, which that's pretty good. That's good in a pinch, right? That'll get you around town for the day at least. And on this Elite model, the range is about 240 miles. So that's also not bad when you consider a lot of EVs are actually between that 240, 260 range. So it's doing pretty good there, I would say. Now, this is slated to do a 5.9 second 0 to 60. Unfortunately, don't have the race box with us today, but we can't test that. But I will tell you, it's quick to accelerate. It's just not as quick. You know, it feels plenty good. Yes, it is a little strange to be in an EV that's not faster, but overall, I think this is plenty good. I do, of course, have some gripes with how things are set up. Like, I'm not a fan of having to change headlights in the infotainment center here. I think that's a a danger, to say the least. Not good. Overall, in my opinion, the practicality of this EV is actually quite well though. You know, the back seats were incredibly spacious, tons of room back there. Good for road trips, I would even say, because they're quite comfortable. What it really gets you there though is the storage space in the rear. If you are going on a road trip and you're trying to bring a bunch of suitcases or bags, you know, or a cooler or whatever, you're really going to run out of room pretty quick. But that's where the roof rails come into play. So get a box, throw it up there, and you're off to the races. Go camping. Now, a lot of people also don't think of towing when they think EVs, right? But this actually can tow. Right now, it's not set up for it, but you can install a hitch, and it's got about a 1,500 pound towing capacity. So that's not bad. That could get you some places, right, Steve?
Yeah, kind of.
Now, how the steering wheel feels, it feels really good. It's nice and thick. The material is soft, but yet it grips your hands. I like the contrasted stitching that's going on with it. You know, overall, the steering wheel is just, it's a pleasure to hold. And having it heated in the winter times, especially being in the Midwest here, that's a big win as well. Another thing that's a little strange, right? So you've got your regenerative braking control on your steering wheel. Now that just allows you to make it stronger or weaker or, you know, whatever, so be it, when you have it in full one pedal mode. But typically what you have is you have the two paddles, one to go less, one to go more, and you go all the way off as well if you just click it enough. But if you want to mess with anything like that, you actually have to go into the infotainment center and change that. So again, another thing that I classify as dangerous. You know, let me know in the comments, do you agree with that setup, or do you think they should have moved that to the steering wheel where it belongs? Overall though, the regenerative braking does work well. It's very strong initially though when you turn it on, but it is capable of one pedal driving. So if you're coming from a Tesla and you just wanted more space and you wanted that Tesla feel still, you can get that full-on one pedal driving in here. Now, what do you say we get Uncle Steve in the driver's seat and see what he has to say about this 2024 Prologue?
So now it's Uncle Steve talk about the powertrain. For this model Elite, it has two motors, one in the front, one in the back. It's a full-time all-wheel drive. Combined horsepower is 288 horsepower and 333 pound-foot of torque. For the pricing, I have to ask Josh.
Well, Steve, there is 5 different trims for this Prologue. There's the EX, which is front-wheel drive only. That comes in at $48,795. There's the Touring, which is front-wheel drive as well. That comes in at $53,095. And then what we're in today is the Elite all-wheel drive, which gets you out the door at $59,295.
But you know what? For all this model, they still qualify for the federal tax credit, so which is up to $7,500.
That's pretty substantial.
That's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
You say the base price, the starting price is $48,000. So basically, around 41, you can have a front-wheel drive, kind of like same size of the Model Y, for probably a little bit less, right?
Yeah, and not only that, like if you did opt for the entry model, you know, the cheapest trim, you also get more range too.
Yeah, for this one is 298 miles, right, for full charge.
Yeah, but real world estimates come more in around that 260 mark.
Especially during winter and you turn on every single accessory like today.
Yeah.
We just turn on the whole like AC to max. The basic warranty is 3 years, 36,000 mile bumper to bumper. And for the warranty on the high voltage battery is 8 years, 100,000 miles. So what do you think about the warranty coverage?
I mean, it sounds fantastic, right? I mean, whether or not they honor everything might be a different story, but 100,000 miles on the battery or 8 years, I mean, that's pretty solid.
The drive actually quite nice. It doesn't feel like an EV. Everything just feel like normal Honda. It doesn't have a lot of touch screen, you know, like fancy feature, like voice control command with door open, window open. It doesn't give you dance like the Tesla does. The noise, what do you think about the noise, Josh?
You know, well, I think that on the lower trims, it would actually be better because this Elite trim comes with bigger wheels and smaller sidewalls on your tires. So what I hear a lot of is road noise, and like you hear every bump we go over. However, wind noise is practically non-existent. Like I don't hear it. Yeah, it's just all road noise that I hear.
But a lot of the EV there, you can hear the road noise very clear. Special. I'm not picking on Tesla, but they are the only. Back then, it was the only EV vehicle company. So a lot of people complain about Tesla. The road noise is actually louder.
Yeah. You know, that wouldn't surprise me. You know, if you slam the door of a Tesla, the whole door panel falls apart. So like,
yeah. Do you hate Tesla?
I don't hate Tesla. I just like hating on Tesla.
Well, overall, the braking is nice. The driving is good. The steering actually is good. Just like I said, just like a normal car. I don't feel like I'm driving an EV, which is I have drove a Tesla before, and immediately I feel like there's like a EV, but not the worst. Like it feels like Power Wheel.
Yeah.
But this is actually like a car.
It does. Yeah, it feels very practical, and you know, yeah, I agree with you fully. It just feels, it doesn't scream EV anywhere. So in conclusion, what do we think of this brand new 2024 Honda Prologue Elite trim? Well, you have it. Like, it's very practical. It's very efficient. It's very, you know, just clean. It seems well organized, well put together, and for Honda's first entry into the EV scene, I think it's a pretty good one. You'll have to let us know what you think in the comments though. Would you rather take the Chevy Blazer, the Ioniq 5, or even the Kia EV6? Let us know in the comments what you think, and thanks for tuning in. Smash up the like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video.